What's up, YouTube? I'm Brett,
I'm Lance.
and this is Rants or Us. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. We're on the road to 1,000, and we hope you guys can help us get there. Alright, so this is our Season 3, Episode 9 review of Mayans M.C. Lance, what did you think of the episode?
I thought it was a good episode. There was a lot of things about it I didn't necessarily like, but it was still a pretty strong episode for me. I can't believe we're on episode 9 already.
Seems like the season just began.
That's because we waited 16 months.
Yeah, I know. Is it that we waited 16 months, or is it the fact that they gave us 2 episodes at the very beginning? I feel like if they're going to do that at the very beginning, I feel like they should do it at the end.
I think it was neither. I think it's because this season's been so good that it's been going by so fast.
Yeah, I mean, look, no doubt in my mind, this is by far it's the best Mayans episode. You know, we always compare it to Mayans to SOA, but I almost kind of think it's one of the best SOA Mayans episodes, as you know, if you put the thing all together. I feel like it's that good of a season.
You keep saying episodes, but I think you mean seasons.
I mean seasons. Sorry, seasons. Yeah. Overall, I would say
this episode was not the best.
It was not all time great, but I will say there have been some really solid episodes this season. This unfortunately, to me, was not one
as a whole.
Yeah. This one was a good episode, but it was a letdown simply because it wasn't as good as the rest of them have been. In my opinion, except for the first 2, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say it's still better than the opening 2 we got.
The first 2 was garbage. I remember the first 2, I was like, oh, we're in for a long season. But I mean...
I wouldn't say garbage. They were bad.
Yeah, they were bad. But overall, I mean, what do you think of EZ? What do you think of this EZ Gabby situation?
I just absolutely did not like Gabby this episode.
You know, I remember when I first got done watching this episode, I was talking to you, and I had a completely different take on Gabby before I mentioned that to you about her. About you didn't like her this episode. I'm like, why didn't you like her? Tell why you didn't like her.
Well, I thought she was kind of a bitch about things. Like, I'm sorry. She set it up on the bridge to be like, oh, I don't like how people talk about me as Latino.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And then they go into this restaurant, and these guys are making disrespectful comments to her about being Latino, and he beats the crap out of them, and she's like, you didn't do that for me, you did it for you. No, I clearly did it because you just were griping about how people treat you, and I'm not going to let it happen no more. And I'm sorry, if that was me in his situation, I would have beat him to death too.
I feel like if my wife would have made that comment to me a few minutes before that happened, I would almost feel like I'm obligated at that point to beat those guys up. That's the way I would feel.
I kind of feel like she was stupid. Yeah, absolutely you're obligated at that point. But I feel like she was stupid because there was 12 cops outside. Why did you feel like you should grab him in the middle of a fight? Like, what did you expect to happen?
I know, especially when there was 2 guys involved. Of that.
Well, he's thinking maybe, in his mind in that point,
there's going to be another guy that's grabbing me.
Somebody's jumping me.
Yeah.
Nope, not happening. Yeah. And so I've been in those situations before, and I can completely understand why he just kind of slung back.
I feel like at the same time, I kind of agree with you to a certain point. I didn't feel like it was as weak of that Gabby was. This was a weak episode for Gabby necessarily, but I will say this.
I do.
I feel like Gabby though set that situation up for him to be failure. She doesn't want a violent man, but she picked a guy that's in a motorcycle gang. That makes no sense.
Something else that made it a weak episode for her. My point was, she says, you didn't do it for me. You did it because you're just violent by nature. Well, you started dating me knowing I was in a motorcycle gang. What do you expect
And you knew
out of
I probably
me?
killed somebody in the past. Like, I mean,
I mean, this is a motorcycle gang. This isn't a motorcycle club like the Holy Rollers or nothing. Like,
yeah, yeah. This is a guy that
this
just
is
got out of
some
prison for killing a
outlaw.
cop. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
so,
you know,
so I'm like,
even though when they first met and they had their vibe, he was still a prospect. You knew where he was going.
yeah, I mean, and if you knew anything about his past, which she does, or at least I
Yeah,
think she does,
she knows all of it for sure.
but
I mean,
but
part
I
of
mean,
their
at the end,
problems, part of their problems was he wouldn't talk about it. I remember those episodes, but you know enough to know
yeah,
he has done some things.
that
Like,
he's done some really, really violent things in his past. So the idea that you kind of come to him now and be like, "Whoa, you're a little too violent for me," I'm like, you're a little hypocritical there, Gabby, in
and
that
then
regard.
like she kept saying, "You beat the crap out of these kids. They were grown
They
men
were
at
grown
least
men.
college.
Look,
At
when you
least
say
college.
yeah, when you say kids, I'm thinking like teenagers, but
Yeah, high school
but these were
kids.
grown men that were
These were
doing
not
that.
high school
So,
kids. If they were high school kids, he would have got out the next day.
and I'm like,
Like,
how old is she? Like, it's not like her and Easy are like
well, they're
35
probably
year
in their
olds
30s.
either, or something
They're
like
probably in
that.
their 30s.
You think they're in their 30s?
Yeah.
Could very. I was trying to think. They did show in the first season. Him in high school, and some of those things. And I don't know how long the time jump was, but I would say at least late 20s.
Well, no, yeah, you're probably right because it's 8 years after. He
Oh,
went to prison for
all
eight
right. So
years.
26.
So he's in like his mid 20s.
Yeah, somewhere around in there. So I mean, I get it. It's season 3, but season 3 doesn't necessarily mean that it's year
So
3.
even if it was, that would be 11 years. So he'd be like 28.
Yeah, 28,
20.
29, or in that regard. So, I mean, let's just say late 20s. So, I feel like it's kind of weird somebody in the late 20s being like kids. Like,
Mid 20s.
like,
Because these guys were in college. I said kids, but that's because I am in my mid 30s.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
These,
I'm in my
these,
mid 30s now. I
these
feel like
guys
I
were
can
in
say
college.
that stuff. No, I wouldn't say it like when I
Yeah.
was 29 or something like that
Well,
either.
I do think, in all these points we're talking about now, that makes me say yes. This was a weak episode for her. She was a weak character.
I mean, okay. This is the point that just like confused me beyond belief. Was the very end of the episode where where he goes and he's like, "I'm gonna go save this relationship." She just literally broke up with you. She did not give you a choice to go with her, and then he's like, "I'm going with you." That's not how it
I
works.
felt like, and I know this is probably an unpopular opinion on this, but I feel like that made this a weak episode for EZ for him to be like, "I'm gonna go with you. I choose you." I don't remember giving you a choice.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if she would have been like, "Come with
Second
me,"
of all, you're groveling like a little kid right now.
yeah. Like they're kind of
I
almost.
understand he's in love with her or whatever, do whatever it takes to make it work, but give her some space for a minute. Like,
And why did Steve's death be the thing that makes him go, "Oh, I gotta make things right with Gabby now"? Like, why?
I think he
Like,
blames himself because when Steve wanted to talk to him, he was just like, "You bury that shit. This is who we are." Like, just
could
suck
very
it up,
well
kid.
be. I mean,
So I think he blames himself, so he wants to get the hell out of here, like, because of that.
but then at the same time, I'm like, you couldn't have saved him, even if you talked to him about it. Like, you weren't gonna change that
He was
situation.
like when Steve made the comment that he can't stop seeing that guy. I was like,
He's
leaving the club wasn't going to save him. He was
yeah.
going to kill himself regardless. I knew right then.
I
And
felt
then when
like
everybody's talking and he's just like, I was like,
I felt like they did a really bad setup to all of that because you clearly knew he was either going to quit or kill himself or do something crazy where he was
like I
going to
said,
leave the club.
I don't think quitting was an option at that point because even if he had quit, he's still going to have those demons, and he wasn't going to defeat that. He wasn't strong enough. I mean,
Yeah.
He wasn't built for this life,
No,
and
he wasn't. I
he
mean,
should have gotten it a long time ago. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. Like, what did you think these guys? Like, what did you think you were going to
well,
have to do in this?
he made the comment before that he didn't do this because he wanted the violence. He did it because he wanted respect.
Yeah, but that's unfortunately how these guys get respect is through violence.
Yeah,
They don't do it out of
no,
their good deeds. They
no,
they do it
they
through
don't
violence.
disrespect because they're a group of guys riding motorcycles. They
Yeah,
do this because
yeah,
respect. People know they'll put in work.
yeah.
Like,
So I'm like, yeah. I felt like the setup to what happened at the end with Steve
I feel like that was a
was
really
weak.
good thing to do because I thought they had room for growth with that character
Hmm.
throughout the season,
Hmm.
and I feel like ending it the way they did was kind of weak, but it
Felt
didn't
like
really affect me much because I didn't have enough time to like. That wasn't one of my favorite characters. It,
you want to know what kind of when all this transpired. First thing that come in my mind was these frat houses that bully people. To get them in the frat. Well, that's kind of the way they were doing Steve in this one. So I'm like thinking like, what is Hank's situation? What's going through his mind in that? Is he thinking, oh crap, we did this to this guy because he don't know
well, no, because
necessarily what's going
let's
on?
be fair. They did all these same things to Hank. They did to Easy, and they've done to everybody else who was patched.
Yeah, I know, but I
Like,
mean, at the end of the day, like, is Hank thinking, oh my goodness, am I the
I would
reason
be look,
because of
man.
that?
I'll be honest. Maybe this makes me a little jacked up in the head, but I wouldn't be. I'd be like, man, this prospect was a wuss.
Well, I
He
mean,
could.
yeah, I mean, if I was in a biker gang,
He
I'd be
could
like, I can't believe we just patched in
like
a guy that killed himself,
look.
off of
Look.
it.
All they did was be like, hey, go wash my bike. It's not like they overly bullied him.
I know, but I guess that's what I thought in my mind. Of course, I get it. Hank wasn't crying and breaking down over necessarily Steve. He was breaking down what had happened
Well,
earlier in the
I think it
episode.
was. I
Could have
think
been
it
both,
was.
maybe.
It was a combination of everything going on because
Yeah,
that was his prospect.
yeah. Oh,
That was
yeah, it
his
was.
prospect. So I feel like
Kind of feel like I kind of feel like we got
I
to
hate.
see.
I hate what they're doing with Hank. Like I like Hank,
I do
and
too.
I hate that he's going through all this stuff all at the same time. Like I hate it for him.
It's like we have to see his pain, and I don't really want to see his pain necessarily because I
We were
feel
already
like
going to see enough
he's
of
too
his
nice of a guy.
pain. I already felt like we were going to see enough of his pain when she agrees to go out with him or come over for
Yeah.
dinner, and then like, hey, I'm engaged.
I didn't really understand why she agreed to that. Like, why wasn't she like, "Hey, I've got to talk to you,"
I think in
whatever.
her mind, she's like, okay, I'll agree to come over there and I'll tell him that night. I'll have a chance one on one to talk to him and let him know what's going on. I don't think she expected Angel to be like, hey guys,
What do you think,
listen
Angel?
up.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what do you think Angel's thing is going to be like? Why is my fiance going out to dinner with my club members to see his mom? Like that would be a little weird to me in that
Yeah,
regard. I mean, not
probably.
unless she would tell him or something in advance, but that would just be a weird situation all the way around.
I
Um,
mean, she might be like, look, I think I gave Hank some mixed signals and I need to go straighten this out. And I think Angel would probably be like, okay, yeah, go handle
well,
that.
but see, what was the point? See, this is another thing when it comes to the Hank thing. What was the point of doing this to Hank this season, anyways, if there wasn't going to be a confrontation between him and Angel? Because Angel is completely and totally oblivious to any of this that's going on. So it's not like Angel's jealous or upset about anything.
No,
And
I
it's not
mean,
really like Hank is upset at Angel either in this
and
regard.
I don't think he should be,
No.
and I don't, like I said, told you when I first watched this, I don't think Angel did anything
No, he didn't.
like, wrong
No,
or
no.
did anything hurt Hank. But I do think that she kind of did because, like,
Yeah.
she could have been like, "Hey, I told Angel, and we're gonna try to,
Yeah. That's all she had to say.
family act that is nothing."
Yeah.
And it's just so I feel like she was kind of conniving in a way, trifling for sure.
I mean, I see where you're coming from on that, and I actually agree with you. That's all she had to say was that.
First of all, they make her seem like this bartender / tattoo artist that pretty much just hangs around the club and sleeps with people.
Yeah, I know. I mean that.
I'd be like, is it mine?
Well, I mean, look. I don't know how it works in Mayans, but on SOA, they kind of made that very clear about how that went on with the women that hung around the club. So I haven't necessarily done that on Mayans, but I know on SOA they made that very clear what went on with that.
Like when he's like, even when he tells EZ before he says she's pregnant, EZ he's like, you'll meet someone and you'll meet the right woman and you'll have a family. And he's like, I know, nails. And EZ's like,
yeah.
So I mean, they kind of make it seem like she's just kind of like a hang around.
Yeah, I know.
And so I'm like, I'll be like, who else you been with? Like, you been sleeping with Hank too? I mean, maybe it's Hank's baby.
I feel like if we
maybe I'm a dick, but that's how I would be.
Look, I feel like if we was pre Me Too movement, they would have definitely gone that route. But I feel like outside things that's going on has changed. Maybe that they can't do that necessarily in this regard with her. Where with SOA, they clearly did it. They clearly did that in SOA. But again, that was pre-Me Too movement. I feel like a lot of outside forces really does play a big role.
It's not okay because of the Me Too movements. It's not okay to ask a girl if you're sure it's my baby, but it's okay to.
I'm not talking about that aspect of it. I'm talking about the. The hang-arounds, the chicks that would just hang around the club, those things.
No, that's not okay, but it's okay to drown your wife in the bathtub.
Drown your wife? Well, technically, he didn't drown her.
He drowned her. He had to gag her to make her get oxygen.
That's another thing that drove me crazy about this. Was Galindo forevermore is lost to me. He's lost to me. Because he had two chances to act like a cartel boss. One with Alvarez and one with Emily, and he didn't do it.
You talking about this episode? I'm talking about he had 4 chances the last 2 episodes. He could have choked her to death, and he could have killed Nestor for lying to her.
Yep.
Then, and this one he could have killed Nestor or Alvarez or Emily.
Nestor, in that scene with Alvarez and Nestor, one of those two had to die in that scene. Nestor or Alvarez, in my opinion. One of them had to die.
Nestor because like Galindo said to him, Nestor didn't tell us about it.
Yeah. So
Nestor was covered for Alvarez, like Alvarez didn't even know nothing about it.
No, I don't think it was that. I think he told him the last episode what Alvarez had done. So actually, Nestor is playing along with Galindo to Alvarez to see how it is. So I mean, that's the part that to me I'm like, still Nestor needed to die, or either Alvarez needed to die in that moment, simply for that one thing.
I don't think Alvarez is safe this season, and I don't think he doesn't think so either. Or he would have went home and told his wife, like, when I die, I'm going to have to answer for a lot of things I've done.
I think he thinks that this is going. I think he realizes he's not going to do what Galindo wants him to do, and I think he knows that there's no
able to kill mine.
Yeah.
Because look,
Yeah.
okay, but Alvarez is in between a rock and a hard place here. Because if he doesn't kill EZ, Galindo's after him. But if
Yeah.
he kills EZ, the whole club's after him. Because you're not a Mayan no more. Like Bishop has made that clear. Screw what Alvarez thinks, he's not a Mayan. So if he kills a Mayan.
Yeah, but you got to think about this from his perspective. He basically built that club. This is legacy he's got on the line. Like that legacy, I mean, he's going to be looking at it and be like, yeah, if I go and I kill that Mayan, even though I'm not a Mayan anymore, and even though they don't consider me that, I'm just completely and totally destroyed all the legacy that I had going up there in this club. And I think that means something to him. I really do think that means something to Alvarez to a certain extent.
I think it does on this show.
Yeah, I don't think maybe necessarily it would have meant something to him on SOA.
But that's like he said, that was before he met his wife and changed.
And I'm kind of glad that they referenced his son in that. Because he's the one that actually killed his son. Or got happy to kill his son. So I'm like, I've always wondered that about that SOA episode. Was that his real son? Because I'm like, that's pretty cold-blooded.
I'm still not sure on that one. If that was actually his real son, or if that was just he called him son because
I don't know. You know what? But he did mention, he's like, I wish he would have seen the change that I had in there. And I'm thinking to myself, he would have did that if you would have, I don't know, killed him. I mean, he would have saw that. So I'm like, that's kind of a weird thing to say.
His real son, but it could also be someone he just looked at as a son.
But I mean, do you think that Alvarez? So you don't think Alvarez will actually do what Galindo wants him to do either?
I think he's screwed either way.
I don't see him doing it. I think he knows he's a dead man at this point. I think he knows. I think he probably.
I don't think Alvarez is safe, and I don't think Alvarez thinks he's safe.
No. I think he knows for a fact he's going to die one way or the other. So I mean, if you're a man who's thinking like that. I do
respect the fact that he's going to go out with the fight, though.
Yeah. But I think he's going to go out.
When he pulled up there to that meeting, he was like, this is it, but not today,
Yeah. He's like, I know.
I'm going out shooting, guns blazing.
And you know what? I love that scene. That was one of my favorite scenes of this episode.
Was that Alfred scenes ever?
Yeah, no, because I was just like, I'm going out like a boss on this one. Like, I love that. That's what I wanted from Galindo from day one that we've never seen. And then
Galindo's not a gangster. Alvarez is.
Galindo. And at this point, I'm like, keeping Galindo around is hurting this whole show in this regard.
If he could just go ahead and kill Emily, that'd be good. I just don't like him. I think the reason he's wanting to kill her is stupid because he's just completely wrong. But
I know we talked off screen about this, about the Emily thing, but it's like I brought it up to you off screen. I'm like, this dude don't even have the guts to go, like, I don't know, kill his wife. Like, instead, he's going to be like, I'm going to go drug her, and then I'm going to just dip her head out of the water. Like, I'm like, that's not what a cartel boss would do in this situation.
Also, too, if he was head of the cartel, he would already have the proof that she had something to do with it or that she didn't.
He would have been going, he'd been going to EZ Reyes. He would have been going to Reyes' father. He would have been going to all those guys and finding the details. And the fact that he doesn't do that is just very telling of what his character actually is. He's weak. It's very weak.
They've written him weak, for sure.
They really have.
That other cartel boss that we're seeing even says something about how he's so boring.
Yeah, he kind of, in a lot of ways, yeah. Now I'll tell you, that other cartel boss. Yeah, that other cartel boss. That's the villain that this show needs, and maybe we'll have.
Yeah,
but then at the same time, I'm like, We haven't seen the SOA Mayans fight yet. And I still think that's to come, even though it's not going to happen probably this season.
No, it's not going to happen this season, and I know it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking that much forward to it like I used to. Like I don't even care about SOA.
I don't really either. I feel like Mayans at that point has done the breakaway.
Really good. I think they've done really good this season with standing on their own, and that's something
really have
from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. It's hard to even make comparisons to Mayans and SOA anymore because now these shows are completely different. They've broken away from each other now. Like we're talking about apples and oranges at this point. The only reason to bring up them now is through history.
We did a comparison video recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I think if this show can go the distance, it will wind up being a better show when it's all said and done. And I remember saying that back when we did our who was the better protagonist, EZ or Angel video.
Yeah.
We said it then. And I know it sounded crazy back then, but I still stand by that. I still stand by the fact that I think this in the long run will be the better show.
I do actually believe it will be the better show. I do believe Mayans will be the better show.
You.
Yeah, you've changed my mind on that one. But Mayans has changed my mind on that one too. Mayans has had a really strong season 3. But you know what? They have got stronger. I feel like even though I wasn't a big fan of season 2, it still was a strong season. It still had its reasons for being that. It's not had its ups and downs. It feels like it's growing.
At the time, season 2 was my favorite season out of the 2. And now this one's even more so than 2.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. I feel like there's so much growth season after season that if that continues, hands down going to be the better show.
It's going to be the better show, but again, the question is that we asked in our comparison, who will see it? Will fans see it better?
Because I was one of the biggest SOA fans.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm already I enjoy this show more than SOA.
I actually enjoy it a little bit more in SOA now, too.
So it might surprise you how much the nostalgia might not play a factor.
Good, very well. I mean, I will say nostalgia, though, does play a significant factor in really all of our viewing things. We remember things, we're like, oh, that's such a great show. And then when you go back and rewatch it, take Game of Thrones, for instance. I tried going back and watch Game of Thrones the other day, and I'm like, I can't even make it through the first episode anymore. Because I'm like, there's no rewatchability factor.
Me and Monica just had that same conversation earlier. She was like, I kind of want to watch Game of Thrones, but I can't get past episode 1 now because I know how they screwed this show up.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, and I'm kind of that way with SOA to a certain extent because I'm like, I didn't like the last season, the last 2 seasons.
My SOA is I get through like the first 3 seasons, and then I'm like, I don't even want to watch.
I get to where every time I try to rewatch it, I get to where Opie dies, and then I'm like,
well, I get to the season of, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, but I mean, I still feel like it's a very strong show. I just feel like Mayans now, I feel like has surpassed it.
That's another difference that makes me go, I like Mayans more than I like the SOA, and I know it sounds crazy, but I can go back and rewatch the 3 seasons of Mayans.
Oh, dude, I've done that since this episode. I mean, season's been on. I've gone and done.
Yeah, I'm already on episode 2 of season 3.
Yeah,
second time around.
Yeah. But all right,
predict. I watched it from the beginning.
But. Yeah. So predictions. What do you think's going to happen in the season finale?
I think that Potter is either going to call Angel and be like, "Oh, your kid's still alive," or he's going to send him a picture of an older version of the picture he looks at on his phone every episode. And I think that's going to keep EZ in Santo Padre.
Something's going to keep him in there. Easy's not going anywhere. I think
He's the
that's
main
very
character.
clear.
He's not leaving.
No. I thought that was even stupid that they even put that in there. Like, she didn't ask you to go with her in the first place.
No fans watching this was like, he's leaving? Or she's going to tell him no, like straight up, I don't want you to go with me.
Like, I looked at him as like a psycho in that way. Like, you break up with somebody and they're like, oh, I'm actually going with you. I'm like, I didn't give you that choice. Like, that wasn't an option here. I'm just like breaking up with you. Period. Like, she broke up with him before she's leaving. Not because she's leaving.
But she also broke up with him by being like, I love you, goodbye.
Yeah, but I mean, let's say she wasn't going to Lodi or wherever that was. Lodi. So, like, let's say that she wasn't even going to Lodi. She was still breaking up with him because she's like, you're dark and I don't want that in my life. So, I mean, at the end of the day, she was still breaking up with him.
But that's him being like, I'm choosing you over the darkness. And so, I don't know.
It was stupid. It was stupid, actually.
I just don't like that whole stupid. I didn't like anything to do with her and EZ this episode.
What do you think Adelita's main plan is?
I have no clue on that one, if she's going to go and kill Galindo or what.
Adelita is...
I don't see her going after Galindo because the woman that was going after Galindo, she had the new Adelita kill her.
If Adelita kills Galindo this next episode, I'm going to be kind of pissed in that regard, simply because I'm like, Galindo didn't even find out that EZ is his brother. I feel like before he dies, I would like for him to know that a little bit, or them to explore that a little bit.
I feel like if they don't find out, if he does not find out that Angel and EZ are his brothers, then there was no point in making that a part of the story.
Completely wasted story arc if that's the case. Agree with you completely and totally on that.
It is a spin-off of SOA, so it's
could very well be. And we talked in a comparison video about how SOA left some ties open a little bit. So do you think Hank will ever get with Nails?
I don't know.
I don't think it's over yet.
I don't think that storyline is far from over, but
something's going to happen.
I'm wondering. I think that because you remember when Angel proposed to Louisa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call her Adelita no more because she says she's not. I wonder if she's trying to close off something because she put the ring on, wore it around the house for a while, did his laundry, and then left the ring there. So I wonder if she's trying to tie up some loose ends and then come back to Angel, and then that's going to be.
Dude, if she does that, then he leaves the woman that's pregnant with his kid. I'm done with it. I know he would, and I'm done with Angel at that point. We're not going through all this back and forth stuff.
I don't think that would be an option because when Adelita shows back up and she's like, "Oh, I really do want to be with you," and he's like, "Well, I proposed to Nails with this ring," she's gonna be like, "Well, fuck you."
Yeah, I mean,
you didn't wait for me to be gone a week.
I kind of felt like, okay, he maybe jumped the gun. I understand where he's coming from, but I felt like he jumped the gun proposing to Nails in the first place. But simply because he's in a bad spot, like he's in a bad spot emotionally. He's not in a good spot emotionally.
But I think that he's trying to do the honorable thing.
Yeah, I do too. I think he is.
So it's very hard for him. I think he's in a bad situation all the way around.
Yeah, I don't think he's in a good situation.
First of all, we all know that his kid didn't really die. I mean, come on. Does anybody really think that kid died?
But then he's kind of in a bad situation because he's like, okay, this woman's got my kid. This woman's going to have my kid. Who do I go with?
Well,
either way, he's going to look really bad.
That's the thing, though. This woman doesn't have his kid because Potter has his kid, and I don't think she really thinks their son died. I think she just told Angel that.
I think
or Louisa, I think she knows that their kid is alive somewhere.
I think she told him that to break ties so that he would break, it wouldn't have ties to her, whether she could go in the end do what she had to do. That's what I think it really
I don't
had to
care
do.
why. I'm like, I don't care why you said my kid was dead. You told me my kid was dead.
I feel
If
like
he's not, then you're dead. Like,
I feel like, yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Like, that's a messed up thing to tell somebody. But I feel like Adelita is a messed up person and would do
that's
that.
why he's been. That's why he's been going through all the things he's been going through. That's why he's been being such a dick. He thinks his kid died. I'd be being a dick too.
And I'm like, why did Adelita have to go back and get that little girl? Like, that little girl's in a bad situation, so now you just got this little girl to go kill all these people for you, and now you're just going to leave her again? Like, how is she not going to go back to the same situation?
I didn't understand her pulling the whole Harry Potter thing and going and getting her and being like,
No.
you're the leader of this. You're Adelita now.
Yeah, it's like she kind of pulled a Dumbledore getting kids to do what, I don't know, the grown people should be doing. But yeah, so I'm like, I get that point. But overall,
where would you rate this episode? 1 through 10.
6.
Well, see, yours is lower than mine.
Really?
I give it a solid 7.
You want to know what pissed me off about this episode the most? The Chucky explanation. I'd have given it a good. I would have given it a 7 if it wasn't for the Chucky explanation. That was stupid.
Because that wasn't enough for me to be like, screw this show.
I wasn't like, screw this show, but I'm like, it's not one of his better episodes, I didn't think. I was entertained, but look, I was thinking Emily was going to die, and Emily didn't die. I was pissed.
Chucky was such a small part of this Mayans MC all the way around. Yeah, he had some connection with, I guess, a few characters or whatever, but he wasn't enough for me to be like, this was a bad episode.
I mean, the reason why I say it is because anything that involves Chucky is got some weird, strange explanation. And so the idea of them just being like, oh, he fell in love with somebody and went to Ohio, I was like,
they made it, okay.
I felt like the Steve thing was weak.
They made it a big point to, like, in SOA, he meant a lot to that club. Well, then after Max dies, they're like, hey, if you beat us at poker, you can have him.
I know. I kind of feel like that was kind of disrespectful in a lot of ways. But I also felt like the Steve thing was pretty weak. I felt like they foreshadowed that way too quickly.
I definitely thought that was a weak way to X out that character. Why not let him be a patch member and die in battle?
Yeah, I know. Like he could have died.
To get rid of him, you should have let him die when they were getting jumped that episode, which I thought he was going.
Yeah, I mean, and that would have been a perfect ending to his character, and I wouldn't have any problems whatsoever. In fact, that could have been something to haunt Hank at that point for bringing him in. Like, I mean, that could have been something that would have added on to the anguish of making this a little bit more interesting even with Hank as well. But instead it added to EZ's anguish more than Hank's, and I felt like that's kind of messed up in that regard.
At this point, we might see a different part of that. We might see it be more anguish for Hank in the upcoming episode, but...
And I'll tell you another thing that drove me crazy about this episode, and another reason why I give it such a low grade, is something we didn't talk about, but EZ's father's acting is so bad now that it drives me crazy. Any scene they get in anger and go, "Urgh," and showing this emotion, and then just never saying a word after
that. I thought Felipe or Ignacio Cortez or whatever.
I don't care what his name is. He sucks in a lot of ways.
I have been a big fan of him this entire show. It just surprised me for this season for him to be terrible. So,
and I do have to say this too right before we end this. When Steve's sitting there, he's contemplating all this, and all you're hearing are these stories that Bishop's like, I'm beating these guys' brains, and everybody's going, I'm like, what kind of sadistic people are these? Like, yeah, I would just like beat this guy's brains in and all this stuff, and everybody's laughing and joking. And then you got the guy at the end of the table going over there going, ha ha ha, like that.
It shows the different mindset between these guys and where Steve was at.
Yeah, it kind of did, and I'm like, that just like, I don't know, the dude next to him, whatever that guy's name is, the guy that, yeah, what his name? Reaper? Oh yeah. Anyway, Creeper, yeah, Creeper. Creeper. All you would see is like him looking over him, going ha ha ha. And I'm like, that's such like a weird
Well, thing. At one point, I thought
it's almost like they were laughing at him.
Something because like he kind of looks at him and he can tell something's not right with this Steve guy. And so I thought Creeper was going to notice something and pull him to the side or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm sorry, EZ. I don't think I can bury it.
And I'm like, how did you hear that over all the laughter and stuff like that was going on anyway?
EZ was the only one that did, and maybe he only heard it because he heard his name.
I don't know, but it was, to me, that was such a weak scene. I know it was supposed to have been something big, dramatic, but it wasn't for me. But overall, I give this episode a 6. I'm looking forward to a lot of things when it comes to this. I think Galindo might die in this. I feel like Adelita is a woman with a cause, and I don't really care what she does at this point. I feel like the nails thing with Angel is going to be a complete and total bust for some reason or another. And I don't believe EZ's going to lead the show. That's my prediction for the final episode. No. So, I mean, overall, I give it a 6. You say you give it a 7, was it?
7.
But all right, guys, let us know what you think down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.